In the world of the Transformers, the heroic Autobots can consistently rely on the skills, courage, and gift for improvisation of Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus! The courageous Ultra Magnus is a born leader. We meet at last, Galvatron, and it will be the last time we meet.
According to his bio, this city commander may have a strong profile for leadership, but he is uncomfortable with the mantle. Although that mantle was thrust upon him, Ultra Magnus lost the matrix of leadership to Galvatron and somehow survived this.
We exterminate him!
I'd like to thank my patrons and my channel members for your continued support. Consider becoming one, or purchase some merch on my Spring store today. As mentioned in my Ultra Magnus retrospective, Optimus Prime passed the matrix of leadership to Ultra Magnus on his deathbed after his final confrontation with Megatron in Transformers the movie. With the new responsibility of full command of the Autobots, Ultra Magnus's first order of business was to rebuild Autobot City in the aftermath of the carnage caused by the Decepticons. This was, of course, cut short by a new threat of Unicron, who attacked the Autobots' moon bases surrounding Cybertron. Unicron had revived Megatron, now as Galvatron, sending him to attack the Autobots in pursuit of Ultra Magnus.
I, Galvatron, will crush you just as Megatron crushed Prime. And you'll die trying, just like Megatron.
And the matrix of leadership.
It is the one thing, the only thing that can stand in my way.
Escaping through space en route to Cybertron, Ultra Magnus had a difficult time adjusting to his new role.
Compton Hot Rod just bought it. I can't deal with that now.
However, in a last-ditch effort to flee from Galvatron's might, Ultra Magnus ordered the Autobot shuttle to separate to trick the Decepticons to believe that they had been destroyed.
Did we have to let them detonate 3/4 of the ship?
Seeing as how they would have detonated 4/4, I think it was a good choice.
With the remnant of their shuttle damaged, Perceptor suggested that the Autobots stop at one of the strangest places in the Transformers universe, the planet of Junk. Also known as Junkion, this planet is the junk capital of the universe.
This must be the junk capital of the universe.
Their inhabitants, the Junkions, are Cybertronians made from the scrap metal that makes up their world. They are led by Wreck-Gar, and their culture comes from TV broadcasts from Earth.
Where'd you learn to talk like that?
TV! We talk TV! You talk some TV!
Much like the biker gangs from the Mad Max films, the Junkions are also extremely hostile to intruders. That is, at least until their friendship is gained.
Ba weep grana, weep ninny bong.
Oh, weep grana, weep ninny bong!
Ba weep grana, weep ninny bong.
Which will in turn make them loyal friends until the end.
Me Grimlock not kisser, me Grimlock king.
Their origins aren't exactly clear, which will be a discussion for another day. However, the Dreamwave Comics profile book suggests that early space bridge technology was used to throw away Cybertronian junk, thus making the Junkions themselves made from the scrap parts of both Autobots and Decepticons. This led to the Junkions in becoming expert mechanics, as they can easily put their pieces back together.
I talk some TV, and now the news. Don't touch that dial.
Learning from Unicron that Ultra Magnus was still alive, Galvatron and the Decepticons arrived on Junkion to hunt down the Autobot matrix of leadership. To save his fellow Autobots, Ultra Magnus faced Galvatron alone, believing that this was truly the Autobots' darkest hour.
Prime, you said the Matrix would light our darkest hour.
He tries to open the Matrix, but ultimately fails, and Galvatron orders the sweeps to blast him apart. Originally, this scene was supposed to be a little more violent. Their beams were to grab Ultra Magnus by the arms and legs and literally tear him apart, just as Unicron had ordered Galvatron to do before.
Stalk him, tear him apart, and destroy the Matrix.
However, the filmmakers must have thought a quartering was too gruesome for an animated feature, despite the violence seen earlier on in the film.
Such heroic nonsense.
And so, they chose to have him blow up instead. Once befriending the Autobots, the Junkions put Ultra Magnus's body back together using an Energon wax to revive him. This upset a lot of fans who were upset about the major event that happened earlier in the film, in which Optimus Prime had died. They wondered why couldn't the Junkions repair Optimus Prime in the same way. Now, I do have to address the reality of why this even happened in the way it did. Optimus Prime's toy was being discontinued in 1986, and Hasbro decided to kill the character after the suggestion was made to kill Duke in the G.I. Joe movie. While Ron Friedman was adamantly opposed to doing the same to Optimus Prime, he decided that Prime would live on within the Matrix through a new character, Hot Rod, who would learn from his mistakes and rise to save the universe from the greatest threat the Transformers had ever faced, Unicron, by becoming Rodimus Prime. The other new character, Ultra Magnus, was purposely written to have been the new leader temporarily, so that the audience knew that he wasn't the right choice, even if he seemed like he was.
Let's try to salvage this thing.
Flint Dille has even stated it was very much like the biblical tale of King Saul, and how David was truly the chosen one to become king.
Why'd I have to be the chosen one?
However, Ultra Magnus was a new character, with a new toy being sold, and as such, had plot armor strong enough to allow him to live. This properly placed Ultra Magnus as second in command to Rodimus Prime during Season 3, as he gave the new Autobot commander much needed advice.
Last big party of the summer, folks. Let's go out with a bang.
Just once. Couldn't your attitude reflect the gravity of the situation?
And if I can help it.
But to answer how he survived on the planet of junk is a little complicated. First of all, since the Transformers themselves are robotic life, they're extremely resilient.
That's a very sensitive junction.
Being able to take a lot of damage sometimes to the point of being disassembled doesn't always mean that a Transformer has been killed. Even Optimus Prime was disassembled in the episode City of Steel, and he was able to be put back together. The Junkions themselves are even more resilient, as they can easily put themselves back together instantly.
I'm back, and I'm beautiful.
Baby, you're the greatest!
Wreck-Gar was even able to revive Springer in Five Faces of Darkness Part 4, after he was torn apart on the planet of Goo.
What happened?
Second, the life force of a Transformer is known as a spark, the origins of which will be a discussion for another day. As long as a Transformer's spark chamber, also known as a laser core, is not damaged, they could technically be repaired even if the damage is extensive. In the episode Divide and Conquer, Optimus Prime was severely damaged by the Decepticons. However, his laser core remained intact, despite needing a replacement part known as a Cosmotron to prevent his spark from joining the Matrix. Ratchet and Wheeljack were able to keep him alive long enough for the other Autobots to get a replacement Cosmotron from Cybertron to finally repair him. However, taking a look at Optimus Prime's injuries sustained while facing Megatron in Transformers the movie, the shots from the blaster Megatron used on him must have blown out his insides and damaged his spark chamber, hence his wounds were fatal. Thirdly, Transformers also have a life-saving function known as stasis lock. Think of it as a Cybertronian equivalent of a coma. If a Transformer is heavily damaged and their spark chambers are not compromised, their bodies will shut down to a point in which they will only use enough energon to keep them alive. Both concepts of sparks and stasis lock were introduced in the Beast Wars cartoon. As seen in the episode Code of Hero, Dinobot heroically overrode going into emergency stasis lock to stop Megatron's attack on a valley full of early anthropoids.
Repeat, power loss critical. Further expenditures will result in loss of spark. Stasis lock must commence.
Override!
This unfortunately led to his spark being extinguished. The original Autobots and Decepticons aboard the Ark that crash-landed on Earth 4 million years ago spent their time in emergency stasis lock until they were brought back online in 1984 by Teletran 1.
Thanks.
When Ultra Magnus was blown apart, he most likely went into stasis lock as well. Not to mention that, like his G1 toy, and as we've seen in the Dreamwave comics, Ultra Magnus is actually a white Optimus Prime looking robot underneath a suit of armor. This gave the Junkions time to repair Ultra Magnus, even though it would seem his wounds were fatal as well. By the time Rodimus Prime did bring Optimus Prime's body to Wreck-Gar, his spark had long since been extinguished.
I'm a doctor, not a forklift. His engines, they cannot take the strain.
Wreck-Gar, any hope the Junkions can repair him?
He's dead, Jimmy.
I hope this clarifies how Ultra Magnus survived his confrontation with Galvatron on Junkion. But what do you think? How were the Junkions able to revive him? And should they have animated the scene of him being quartered instead of being blown apart?
All alive.
Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe. I have many more Transformers videos like this coming soon, so stay tuned. And as always, until next time, till all are one.
You okay?
I'm a pepper. Would you like to be a pepper too?